Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I want to talk to you about an article I found on a website called Study Finds, where they do research and kind of present it in a way that's easy to ingest. So they did an article and they called it Best Bourbons for 2023, Top 5 Bottles Most Recommended by Expert Websites. Now I'm not going to lie, their list is actually very good and it features things like Four Roses at number 5, it has Widow Jane 10 at number 4, Old Ezra 7 at number 3, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof at number 2, and then W.L. Weller 12 at number 1, which is just stupid, right? Like, you can't get this for less than $250. You don't even put this on lists unless it's the top 5 stupidest prices for bourbons ever, because they're not that great. So enough shade. All right, but I also didn't want to just give you guys generic things like buy some Woodford Reserve and get some Buffalo Trace, because those you already know, and you should. You definitely should get both of these if you've never tried them. But I wanted to give you guys some good replacements for these 5 and see what I could come up with. So I drank a ton of bourbon over the last few days. I just was down here sipping, and having a good time, actually, a really good time. And I came up with 5 alternatives. So let's go into that. The Four Roses single barrel at number 5 is actually a fantastic choice, and because I think that this one is just very attainable, everywhere has it. It's like $50, so it's fairly easy to get your hands on, but so are the replacements that I came up with. The thing to keep in mind is Four Roses single barrel is a high rye bourbon, so it's 35% rye in the mash bill, which is one of the highest in all of bourbon. And so you probably like rye if you really like this, but that's totally fine because it also kind of has the smoother flavor, and there's things I was trying to figure out to replace it with. So the first one I'm going to give you is, actually I'm kind of like half doing this one. So not the regular Old Grandad. What you want to get is the Old Grandad bottled in bond, which I just couldn't get my hands on in time for the video. So you want to go with the Old Grandad bottled in bond. It's only $25. It's a total sleeper. It's total hidden gem. It's really, really good. It's 100 proof, so it's going to be kind of right in line with this, and it's higher rye. So it's going to be very good. It's going to be close, but it's going to be something that maybe you've heard Old Grandad and just kind of think it's like cheaper. Go with the bottled in bond. It is cheap. It's inexpensive, but it's really good. So it's kind of the perfect combo. Now the other one, this one's a little easy too, but if you've never had it, then it's totally worth it. Just regular Knob Creek. Regular Knob Creek is also going to be very good. This is, you know, oaky, but it's also just a really good example of what bourbon can be. It's a really high seller, so you know it's going to be good, and I think it's a great replacement. So either one of these would be good. Just get the bottled in bond. The Widow Jane 10 was one of the hardest ones on this list to try to replace, mostly because it actually has a pretty unique flavor. However, if I give you some tasting notes, it's not going to sound unique. It's very heavy cherry, very heavy oak, charred oak, and most of it is just, it's smooth, it's tasty, it's delicious, but that sounds like a lot of other bourbons. It's not. Just, you'd have to try it. So when I thought about replacing Widow Jane, my first thought was, well, what else does Widow Jane make? And they make the Lucky 13. I think this is a great choice because not only is it as good as this, it's actually better. It like kind of accentuates everything good about the 10 into the 13. So this is a bit more pricey though, at about $100, whereas this was, I want to say, about $70 in my area. So I get that. That's not necessarily going to be a good choice. So instead, if you want to try something not from their distillery, go with the Henry McKenna 10. Now, I know, maybe this is a little harder to find in your area. For me, actually, this is always on the shelves, and I live up in Massachusetts, about as far away from Kentucky as I can get. But as far as I'm concerned, I think this is a very, very good one, and I considered making this a replacement for like half of the bottles on this list. So regardless of everything else, just go get this bottle if you see it on a shelf. You need one of these. So it's very, very good. But I think both of these would be an okay, if not really good, replacement for the 10. At number 3, we have the Old Ezra 7 year. Now this one kind of annoys me because the other day when I was thinking about filming this video, I went out and bought a whole bunch of new bottles just so I could make sure I have them on the video because it's what I do. And I forgot to look on my shelf and realize that I already had a bottle. So I went and spent $70 on a bottle of bourbon I didn't have to. But it also made me realize that this bottle is $70, which is a crazy amount. I remember reviewing this years ago for like $40, and I loved it at $40. I don't know that I love it as much as $70. I think that puts it in line with other stuff that I might like a little bit more. But anyway, the Old Ezra 7 is a great dram. Even when I was sampling this one to do this video, I was just like, man, that's really good. I forgot how good this was. So when I think about a good replacement for it, this one's tough. And I thought a little bit out of the box, or technically I guess it's in the box, because it's the Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. What? You ask in disbelief? Yeah, man, it's, hear me out, okay? Ready? So, well, I don't need to do this, but if you were to smell both of these side by side, I guarantee you will immediately get why I'm recommending it. And like I said, I tried a whole bunch of stuff. And as I was doing that, I was like, you know, I'm gonna get massacred on this video by recommending this, but it just is. It's similar. It's like really similar. But you know, that's fine. If you don't like JD single barrel proof, then we're probably not gonna be friends anyway. So just go with my suggestion. Trust me on this. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love this either way. So just go buy it. At spot number 2 is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Now, of course, ECBP is going to be on this list, and it deserves to be. Honestly, it deserves to be in one of the top spots because they are routinely extremely good. They do 3 releases every year, and they all tend to be extremely good. So let's go with something very similar. This is the Larceny Barrel Proof. Now, they're also Heaven Hill, so they're going to be very similar as far as quality control, and most likely if you like this, you're going to like this. They also do 3 releases every year, so this should be readily available. They're about the same price point, just everything about this makes sense, right? But let's give you another alternative too, and I discussed this one on my video last week, which was the about the Whiskey Tribe top 10 alternatives to their community voted top 10. And ECBP came up, and so I decided to get the Knob Creek Reserve here. Now this is the 9-year-old, and it is also extremely good. It's different though, and that's why I kind of hesitated there for a sec. It is one of those things where if you like this, you will definitely like this, but for different reasons. This is going to be heavier on the barrel char for sure. It's going to be kind of less notes, at least in my mind. It's going to be less complex, but bolder in all of the flavors. But it's also going to be extremely standard bourbon flavors. So if you like bourbon, you'll love this. All right, let's go into number 1. So before I get to number 1, I just want to remind everybody that I have a Patreon that I would love it if you'd go check out. I do giveaways, I do whiskey news, I do behind the scenes. I actually do a lot of those lenses if you're already a Patreon of somebody else and you see what they do, especially like the Whiskey Tribe. I do a lot of lenses, especially when I go out and buy stuff. It's really fun. But if you join at the $5 tier, you get a custom whiskey dictionary challenge coin that is only available to patrons. And I actually love this one. It's what I based the new logo off of. And you also get a private channel in the Discord, which is where a lot of WhiskeyTube channels are all in the Discord, and there's hundreds of people in there. It's probably like the second biggest Discord related to whiskey. So check all of the stuff. There's links down in the description below. At number 1, they have W.L. Weller 12-year-old. Because why wouldn't they? It's just, I'm kind of tired of this. Like, I have very few nice things to say about the Weller line, and none of it has to do with how it tastes or the brand. It's all about just what kind of stupidity has been going on with the price. So here's a quick little story. So to buy all these bottles that I've been talking about and stuff, I went out the other day, I bought like 6 bottles, which is funny because I've only talked about like 5, but you know, you gotta shop. So while I was there, I had 3 bottles in my hand. I went up to the counter because they had the Weller 12 on the shelf, and I asked the guy behind the counter, I said, hey, you know, how much is your Weller? And he said $330. I laughed. I probably should have been a little bit more, you know, professional, I suppose, but I laughed loudly. I put down the 3 bottles back on the shelf and I walked out of the store because I just cannot support that behavior. It's ridiculous. So 2 of the other stores that I ended up going to had the bottle for $250, which is equal insane. The MSRP on this is $40. Think about that. That means Buffalo Trace is able to make it, bottle it, store it for 12 years, and still think, hey, you know what? That's worth like $40. And people are paying $250 routinely for this. So when the other stores had it for the $250, at least that was consistent with secondary market. But either way, I took this as a fun challenge to try to be like, what can I recommend that's around that $40 price tag that I think is a really solid value or buy? And here's what I came up with. So one of the bottles I actually couldn't buy only because it wasn't in my area was the Maker's Mark Cask Strength. But so I have a little prop here, but it says Bill's recipe, so you know that makes sense. But Maker's Mark, the Cask Strength version, I think is a great alternative to the Weller 12. It's very similar. It's wheated, you know, bourbon. It's going to taste in a lot of ways the same, and it's that higher proof point, and it's going to cost considerably less. So Maker's Mark Cask Strength, good choice. Next. You guys are going to laugh about this one. So just regular Larceny, you know, just regular Larceny. It's a wheated bourbon, and so is this. You are not looking for a ton of flavor if you're going for wheated bourbon. But I get it. You're going to say, Bill, Larceny is not cask strength. Okay, fine. Get the barrel proof Larceny. This is a good alternative too. But all right, let's go away from there. Now here's another one that's going to make you guys maybe a little upset with me. Bernheim Original. So this is about a $40 bottle, and it's basically the same price point as this. This is 7 years, I believe. Yes, 7 years old. So it's a little younger than this. It's nowhere near the proof point, But I also think that if you were to drink these two side by side, I think you'd be like, wow, those actually taste very similar, just this one's a little higher ABV. So I think you should give this a shot, and especially when you consider if you get the Bernheim, the Maker's Mark cask strength, the Larceny barrel, and the regular Larceny, you're gonna pay about $150 for these versus $250 for this one bottle that's overhyped and over markup. So that would be my suggestion. But anyway, thank you all for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary. I hope you had an awesome time. I hope this list helped, and I hope that you picked up some good alternatives to some of the things that just cost a little bit too much or overhyped, or really, actually, some of them are properly priced. Like the Widow Jane 10, honestly, solid buy. You should go get it. All right. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining me here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Cheers.